So there's been another public crash out that's been happening a lot. It's under investigation as a potential hate crime. And a lot of people are outraged about this event. It's pushed a lot of, I think, racial narratives. I don't know whether it was racially motivated or not. But, you know, that's where people are at.
Well, I don't know what you do with the people standing around watching. But there are at least 5 suspects charged.
Nothing. I wouldn't, like, you shouldn't expect somebody to get involved in that shit. I would never want to get involved in that shit. Because if you get involved, like, they might hurt you. You got the police.
In connection with the violent Cincinnati brawl that left 2 people seriously injured on Saturday night. The Trump administration is suggesting this should be treated as a hate crime investigation. And while it remains unclear what led to the attack exactly, it is very clear about how violent it got. One of the most disturbing parts of the story is how many people were just standing around watching. Well, clearly not just watching, because we have so many video of it. They were on their phones. Yeah. One person called 911. And here's a warning. Some of what you'll see.
They don't want to get it. They don't want these. Like, if you have a bunch of fucking psychos show up, starting trouble, not everybody wants to go out and be a hero. Q Daniel Penny, this is why I think you should be able to have a gun. Somebody goes and does this to you, you shoot him in the fucking head. Problem solved.
Obviously is disturbing, maybe even graphic. So now let's go
self-defense.
Brian Yennis, who's in the studio to take us through all of this. Brian, this video went viral, and parts of it are really hard to watch.
Yeah, absolutely very difficult to watch, Harris. The charges against the 5 suspects are sealed, and we don't even know yet how many, if any, have been arrested. Cincinnati's police chief says we can anticipate, though, more charges against more people. Now, look, the video shows a white man being punched and kicked by a group of black people in downtown Cincinnati on Saturday at 3 a.m. The police have not said how or why this started. The police chief says alcohol played a significant role, and they've characterized it as a sudden dispute following a verbal altercation. Now, in the brawl, a woman appearing to try to protect the man is sucker punched by another man, appearing to be...
Jesus Christ. Like, is that what happened?
A woman appearing to try to protect the man is sucker...
God damn. Bro, he just not... Holy shit.
Other man appearing to be knocked unconscious. Cincinnati's police chief says 100 people watched or were involved, yet only one person called 911.
Oh my God.
I think what they should be angry about is nobody called the police. That is unacceptable, to not call the police when you view this. Traffic was horrendous. People saw this. They were fighting in front of traffic. Why didn't somebody call us?
Because they don't want to call anybody. I'll tell you why. They don't want to call because they're worried that by calling they could make themselves a target for the people that are being violent. That's obviously the reason why. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't, like, you should know that.
Vice President J.D. Vance spoke about this yesterday while in Ohio. Listen.
What I saw is a mob of lawless thugs beating up on an innocent person, and it's disgusting. And I hope every single one of those people who engage in violence is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. When you have a grown man who sucker punches a middle-aged woman, that person ought to go to jail for a very long time.
The Trump administration's Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Harmeet Dillon, suggested hate crime charges could be filed, quote, our federal...
Just because there's a fight between 2 people of different races doesn't mean that it's a hate crime. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not, but, like, I don't think you should immediately jump on that and assume that's the reason why.
Hate crime laws apply to all Americans. We at Civil Rights will monitor...
Yeah, it could be. I wouldn't rule it out. I'm just saying I wouldn't start with that as the default, okay? Like, I mean, I don't know. How's that? Come on, guys. Come on.
closely how local authorities handle this attack. Now, Harris, Cincinnati Police Chief, warned yesterday the social media video does not depict the entire incident. One video, for instance, we've seen shows other people that perhaps were being beaten down as well, not just the one man. And I will also point out that there has been criticism from Republican Senator Bernie Moreno against the mayor, Pureval, of Cincinnati for waiting, what he says, 2 days to release a statement. And he says that he had not contacted any of the victims as of yesterday when that statement came out.
Well, look, it doesn't surprise.
That's all political theater. None of that matters. The problem is that you live in a lawless city where people like that are able to go around and be violent, aggressive, and intimidate the public on a regular basis. I bet that's probably not the first crash out that group of people has had. The issue is that you let this go on over and over and over, and eventually people think that it's normal. Gun laws, huge gun laws too. If whites do this, it's racist. No, you guys are absolutely right. I will say it. If other people would not want to say it, if the races were reversed, this would be a national event and all the Democrats would be saying that it was a huge race event 100%. I get that. And I understand that that's the reason why everybody's saying that it's a hate crime, and when you're in a circus, you have to behave like a clown. I understand that. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm giving my opinion. Like, you can push for that. That's fine. I understand it. But I don't think that's a good starting point.
Surprised me that we're going to see the proceeds of more video in all of this. We should see a lot.
Yeah.
People were standing around with their cell phones, taking pictures and videos instead of calling for help. I understood it took 6 minutes for anybody to get there, and there was no ambulance.
See, this is why you have guns, by the way. You just shoot these people.
Yeah, I mean, that woman on the ground, that's a lot. Brian,
simple.
Thank you.
Of course.
Emily, I know that they will bring in more evidence in all of this, but as you look at this, this is a crime scene.
Yes. First of all, I would never use words like fight or brawl.
It's not a fight.
I would use words like attack, assault.
Yeah.
I would charge this, first of all, with attempted murder, because we've seen what one-punch murders can be. This was horrifying.
I mean, sucker punching a middle-aged woman whenever you are a military-aged man on asphalt, on the pavement. Yeah, I could say that's attempted murder, sure.
Deserves no place in society. Ohio State has complicit laws. So if you take part in a group beating, then everyone is responsible and on the hook for those that you see on those myriad cameras recording this. So I certainly would charge everyone with the attempted murder. I would charge them with felonious assault. I would charge with them everything under the book. And Harmeet Dillon
these are the 2%ers that I talk about. You know that 1% of the population is responsible for like 63% of the violent crimes? So if you literally just took out that 1% of the population, over half the violent crimes would just disappear. It's literally that simple. I don't know why we have to live in terror because we're afraid of holding people accountable for being psychotic animals.
Absolutely right that if the state doesn't get it right, and I'm not holding my breath, and step in with hate charges at the federal level. This was nauseating to watch. And the amount of tiptoeing around that we have seen from anyone but the vice president and representatives of the federal authorities is so disheartening to boot. So you're telling me it was a fight when you see 100 people, 100 black people beating up 2 white people, and you're not, what if this was 100 white people beating up 2 Asian people? I think it would be pretty clear. There is no place for this in our civilized society. And the fact that Cincinnati downtown in that area.
Like I as I said before, I mean, I'm not really a big I understand that I agree with the double standard that it's very obvious that, you know, if the races were reversed, then you'd have a totally different dynamic. Like 100%, but I think that both sides are stupid to that, right? I mean, there are plenty of altercations that happen between groups of people and it's not race related. But at the same time, she is right, and everybody knows that she's right, that if the races were reversed, this would be a national story. And everybody would be talking about it, and people would be immediately assuming that it was racism, and it's like, oh, let's worry about white supremacy again, right? Like, absolutely.
Was bare and devoid of law enforcement that is on the shoulders
and
of that.
And that's also the other reason why other people don't want to comment about it or talk about it. And JD Vance clearly doesn't give a fuck. Him and Trump do not give a fuck about this. Like, they have no problem saying stuff like this, which is why I think people like them. Or at least a lot of people like them. Some people like them. But in general, like, that's the reason why you don't have a lot of other people speaking out about it. Do you really know what happened, though, and why the fight started? No one's talking about that? Well, like, I don't really see, like, what would be the reason of, like, why you would punch a middle-aged woman in your in the face, right? Like, why would you do that? Like, maybe the guy got in a fight, and, like, maybe he deserved it because he was, like, starting shit with them. Yeah, sure, I could easily see that. But, like, why would you punch the woman in the face? Like, what context would make that justified? I don't really see any.
Chief Terry, and there is so much more accountability to be had. That woman was a single mother who was just attending a birthday party. Now she's fighting for her life to the cheers of those 100+ people, and now we're going to have to pay for their 3 square meals a day, by the way, in prison going on.
That's why you force them into mandatory labor, and then you make the money off of them.
And that's what they're going to get. They're going to enjoy the royal treatment in prison. So no matter how you look at this, there's going to be zero accountability for those monsters.
Well, unless they get a soft.
So this is my master plan: is that you put all the Nevrons in jail, and then you make them work. And if they don't work, then you put them in like solitary confinement or something like that, or you like make their sentence a lot worse. And so they're basically like they have to work, or they can work to make their sentence shorter, maybe. And that way you solve the problem of like you solve a labor problem. You get these people out of the out of society. It's like you're killing like 10 birds with one stone. What are Nevrons? Nevrons are this is the word I use for latent, aggressive, soulless, obnoxious beings that exist for the sole purpose of causing discord, trouble, drama, and chaos. That's basically it.
On crime policy deal. I mean, that's what
I'm turning it into a slur.
Where is the justice? Can it be meted out the way Emily said? And if the feds get involved, I totally get that. Pierce.
Yeah, sickening on so many levels. Yeah. We don't know the whole story. But what we do know is the police chief went out, and I saw an extraordinary press coverage she gave where she tried to be blaming social media.
What?
That was the real problem.
What?
The problem wasn't this violent brawl in which so many people rounded on this guy. I don't really care how it started. Whatever it started, it ended with a horrific act of mob violence. Then you have a woman punched unconscious, could have died, like you said. But the real problem is social media, apparently, amplifying the wrong narrative about this. No, we know what we saw.
The real problem is the guy punching the woman, right? That's what I would say.
And whatever built up to the moment, we then saw a horrific mass number of people rounding on one guy and a woman knocked cold. And we also saw so many phones out. You know, what has happened to our society? We have this in the UK as well. When the first thought of people, when they see a woman knocked unconscious, who may be dead, is to take a phone out and record it on their phone and then post it on their social media for life.
I can only speak from my point of view, but the reason why I would probably avoid rendering aid or trying to intervene is that I wouldn't want to get hit either, because you don't know whether these people have knives or guns themselves. And also, I would worry that somehow if I tried to help her in a way that didn't help her, because I'm not a, medically licensed professional, I could get sued in the future if she had some sort of injury from me helping her in the wrong way. Like, I know that sounds like a very boring, legal, super vanilla answer, but that's the reason why. And you could say that's stupid too, but I would probably call 911. Like I did. There was one time there was like this roaming crackhead outside my local gas station, and I walked over there at like 3:30 in the morning, and the crackhead's standing in the middle of the street, and he's telling me about how he fucked my mom, and I'm like, okay, for sure, man. And I go to the door, and the door is closed. It's locked. And I'm like, well, what is it? I knock on the door, and it's the same guy that's always there, right? Like, I mean, I've known the guy 15 years, right? And so he opens the door and he, found out that he's like telling me, he's like, oh, this guy's causing trouble. And I'm like, well, why don't you just let me call the police? Well, the guy doesn't really speak English. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to call the police. Let me call the police. And he's like, yeah, please do. And so I called the police and I told the crackhead, I said, listen, do you want ice cream? He said, yes. And I'm like, all right, you're going to wait right there. I'm going to get you your ice cream. I'm going to get it for you right now. Fucking retard sits there and just waits. The cops show up. Oh, they're so stupid. They are. They're so stupid. Like, it's easy. Yeah. It's, again, you gotta understand our story. Yeah, that's it. And we got him, bro. The betrayal, yeah.
That is as sickening as almost any other part of this. None of them, apart from one person, call for help. One person with a woman who might be dead on the ground.
Well, and it's still not clear yet, Cheryl, if the one person was in the bank of cars that was being pushed back, the traffic that couldn't come through because this mob was blocking the way for those cars. So there were people inside those vehicles who were also witnessing this.
Yeah. And did nothing except film, to your point, and that police chief coming out and saying this is social media journalism, and she was pointing her finger at the reporters in the room, I thought was so disrespectful. And by the way, this police chief, it was just recently sued this year by 4 lieutenants in her own department for discrimination. They are 4 white lieutenants that are also.
There are 2 groups of people in this world that cause all of our problems. Every single time. Oh my God.
Suing her because they say that she has done nothing but promote minorities and women ahead of them, and they're actually taking her to court over it.
I would be predisposed to believe that if the first thing that you do when something really bad like this happens is you start chastising everybody else around it that didn't want to get involved with somebody who could potentially have a gun or a knife. Like, what a stupid thing to say. And on top of that, it's such a misdirection. It's an obvious misdirection.
Well, the humanity aspect, obviously, only one person in 100 called the police. What does that tell you about humanity today? But beyond that, there's been a lot of frustration saying, online at least, of saying that if the races were reversed, the coverage that this would get, the immediacy of the coverage that it would get, it would be enormous. And there's statistics to back that up. The Washington Free Beacon did an examination both pre-George Floyd and post-George Floyd, and looked at 1,100 articles from 6 major publications and found that post-George Floyd, the media was much more likely at a much significant amount to report on white offenders than they were on black offenders and naming the race. And so I do think there's documented evidence to.
Wow. I could have told you that for fucking free. You didn't need to study for that. Everybody knows that. It's fucking obvious.
Prove that a lot of those dynamics have changed post George Floyd. But yeah,
everybody
to
knows
see what
that.
We saw. Does it even matter the how and why of how it started?
Well, it does if we want to keep it from happening again, because Cincinnati seems a bit out of control. And to Emily's point, there were no cops around that could stop it right away. And then there were no emergency services for 6 minutes. I mean, that woman was out. That's a lot.
Where are social police officers? In other words, the public, who you could rely on in the good old days to see a scene like that and rush to that woman's help. What's happened to social police work?
Daniel Penny. Yeah, Daniel Penny.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, I remember that guy. That guy choked out that fucking freak in the New York subway. Oh my God, that was like that guy, bro, had like 3 charges of aggravated, or not aggravated. Sorry, just like random fucking assault on women. He's a hero? Absolutely. The world is 100% a better place without that fucking freak around. It is. And Daniel Penny did the entire world a favor.
They get penalized for one.
But his whole life got fucked over in the process. It did. It got massively fucked over. And he almost went to jail for it.
criminal court facing murder charges.
And think about also Kyle Rittenhouse, too. That's the reason why people don't go out and they don't fight back against this stuff, is they don't want to have their life destroyed and be painted like a racist or a psychopath because they're trying to uphold a basic level of societal order.
The Ferguson effect for police officers. I mean, police officers have even been fearful to do their jobs post Ferguson. Rahm Emanuel said that, Democrat Rahm Emanuel.
But this was this was gleeful, wasn't it? This was gleeful recording. We're enjoying this. Look at this.
Correct.
Give me a like.
The worst of us.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me.
Yeah, society discourages you from intervening. Well, it's a popular, it's called the bystander effect. A lot of people know about this. But anyway, yeah, this is the way that I feel about it. I wouldn't automatically assume that it's a race issue. I'm not saying, I'm not ruling it out or anything. I just would not immediately come to that conclusion without more information, right? I would not just A to Z, black people hitting white people, it's because of race for sure. Obviously, I'd need to see more information for that. But again, I also acknowledge that if the roles were reversed, the races were reversed, nobody would need to see any other information, and people would be creating their own narratives just like they are with this. And that's what I said before. When you're in a circus, don't be surprised. When you make things a circus, don't be surprised when everybody else starts acting like a clown. And so that's how it is. And bystander effects evidence everyone in life. Yes, exactly. And it's a side effect of defund the police. Well, I just think in general, I'm very much a big fan of the Second Amendment, and anybody being violent like this, you should just be able to shoot them. That's it. No restrictions, really. And I think that's the way it should be. And everyone's down to throw fists, but when the 9mm comes out, well, the thing is that people aren't going to throw fists if 9mm could come out. And there's a lot of there's something to be said for people not wanting to court trouble whenever they're worried that they could get shot. Yeah, that's it.